Hi, and welcome to another edition of Cracking the Cryptic. And here we're looking at my solve of today's puzzle, Friday. And it was very interesting yesterday. Both Simon and I ended up posting videos of our solve of yesterday's puzzle, and our comments took quite different tacks. I was focusing very much on the importance of the definition, and Simon was looking at some of the really very clever wordplay in the puzzle and pointing out how the solver had very cleverly misdirected people or used kind of new tricks. And that was certainly true, and he was right to compliment the setter, I think, because it was an excellent puzzle. Where we both came together towards the end was in thinking that where Bloom's partner was written in the puzzle, that it must be referring to James Joyce's Ulysses. So a little bit of expected literary knowledge not being required in the end yesterday. It was a nice bit of misdirection again. Now, 13 down here. The key thing here for me is the enumeration, the numbers in brackets, 4-3 followed by 3. Now, there's not an awful lot that fits in that. The word writer at the beginning of the clue looked like it could well be the definition, and some sort of pen seemed possible, and you start thinking what would be a hyphenated type of pen, some sort of ballpoint pen, and felt tip pen came fairly quickly. Then, as so often, it's just justifying the wordplay, and in that case there were various parts. Now, what was noticeable about this puzzle was you couldn't help wondering if the setter had something on his mind, with the answers to 23 across being stripper, defined as a club performer, so we're not beating about the bush there, and then 27 across was eye candy, defined as extremely pretty girl. So don't want to make any allegations, but certainly there seems to be a bit of a theme developing. Rather amusing. Now, 15 down, pulling this perhaps strains hard, I sympathise. Now, it was very clear, I thought, that I sympathise with some sort of interjection at the end of that. So therefore, pulling this perhaps must in some way be a definition. Now, what's actually happening here is that strains means ricks, and hard becomes the letter H, as in a hard pencil. I sympathise is or, A-W. I suppose that's probably a word that often means that, although it could mean other things. And the whole answer is in fact defined by the whole clue. So pulling a rickshaw perhaps strains somebody hard, and others would sympathise. And that sort of clue is normally called a semi-and-lit, where you actually need the meaning of the wordplay, the surface meaning of the wordplay, to contribute to the definition. And there are different views on whether that's an acceptable way of doing a clue or not. I think it makes for quite a nice penny drop when you figure out quite how pulling this fits into it. 17 across here, a V and an R towards the end of a word meaning nervous or trembling, which could basically be about the same thing. I certainly had to, I was perfectly happy that it would either be quivery, quavery, or shivery, which would all fit and all mean one of those things, but therefore I had to work out carefully that the wordplay was shy around I for one and most of very for extremely. Always worth checking exactly why you think an answer is what it is, because if it was, for instance, quivery and you'd entered quavery, you'd feel a bit hard done by on the definition, but almost certainly the wordplay would clean it up for you. 6 down was quite an interesting one. When the clue comes back on screen, I will mention that a bit more, but the answer was double chin, and the definition was fairly straightforward, something like feature of fat person, which certainly, given that I had an H and an N in it, immediately made me think of a double chin. But the rest of the clue suggested some form of goodbye or cheers, and that's fairly confusing, but luckily I was reasonably quickly able to work out that one way of interpreting the phrase double chin is chin chin, which is a phrase that can obviously mean goodbye or cheers, whichever it is. So there's the clue again. Feature of fat person suggesting good health. So chin chin is a toast, sometimes a little bit dated perhaps, but it's kind of another very clever one where the answer itself acts as a form of wordplay, and those can be very difficult. Now the puzzle had gone reasonably fast down the bottom of the grid and was a bit harder at the top. Should have thought of this one quicker. Feeble course I must enter with the others. And the course there is a path. I must enter, must go into something that means with the others, and that's etc, etc. Giving the definition feeble, the answer pathetic, and that was pretty straightforward. There's not that many words for feeble, and certainly even with the A near the beginning I should have been able to get that, but it took the C at the end from caravan to help achieve that. Wasn't sure. I'd entered harassed at 3 down, or harassed as it used to be said, made haste to protect animal under stress, but I still kept on thinking about it a bit after I'd entered it, and it took me a while to see that the animal wasn't the very rare rasse, R-A-S-S-E, but an ass in haired, which was made haste. And finally another animal in 8 down, sly. Took me a long time to see weaselly as the defined answer there. So overall, a time of about 6 minutes 28 seconds. I was theoretically fairly happy with that, but actually in practice, I'm afraid that's a fraction over my average for this year solving the times. But it was a very enjoyable puzzle, lots of intriguing clues, and thanks for watching. Hope to see you again soon on Cracking the Cryptic.